Big Brother.
I love Big Brother.
Yeah, okay, so there you go. All right, now let's jump back to the art, shall we? The end of part 1 and then getting into part 2. Okay, so we left off by looking at, let's see, who'd we end with yesterday? Was that the Arlo-Fini marriage?
Yeah.
Good, so I'm on the right slide. So the Arlo-Fini marriage, we saw this in the Northern Renaissance. Remember, it's going to be a bit different from the Italian Renaissance because while the Italians are doing a lot of religious symbolism and themes, there's a little more emphasis on what? They're doing, they're painting the crucifixion and the Madonna over and over and over again, but what are they emphasizing a little more in Italy than they are in the North? So both are doing humanism, but which part of humanism are we stressing more in Italy? Individualism! All right, so we see a lot more portraiture. We see individualism more in the Italian Renaissance. Remember, in the North, they emphasize Christian humanism much more. So in art and in their literature, much more emphasis upon Christian humanism. What is Christian humanism? What's Christian humanism?
Humanism.
All right, does that mean that humanism in Italy is unchristian?
Nah.
No, they're just re-emphasizing in the North. Whoa, we're using our humanistic ideals of looking at the Greek and Latin texts in order to better understand what?
Yeah.
Not only humans in their relation to the world and their God, but also how to interpret what? More appropriately, more effectively. The Bible. Because what's the Bible written in? Latin! Only Latin at this point, and it's heresy to have it printed in anything else. And so therefore, why do we want to be really good at Latin? Thus a humanist characteristic, really good at Latin. So you can read the Bible, and then why do you want to be really good at Greek? Another humanist emphasis. So, what was the Bible originally written in? What languages?
Greek and Aramaic.
Greek and Aramaic. So we've even got Northern Renaissance humanists like Erasmus of Rotterdam that are learning Aramaic so that they can do things like better translate the original Bible, make a better translation than the Latin Vulgate. All right, so here we see that religious motif from the Northern Renaissance. This guy right here, his name is Saint Anthony, and he's being tortured by sin. How can you tell that Grunwald is showing us that this is sin that is torturing him? Not literal demons, but sin. Oh, they're evil, gross-looking things, morphoditic creatures. Look at this guy. I mean, this guy's got massive cystic acne on his belly. I mean, it looks like if you just give his belly a little squeeze, it's going to shoot vile material all over you. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. All right, and then you've got this nasty little temptation right here, this weird creature. I don't even know what that is. It's like half turtle, half lizard. That's gnawing on his hand. You've got this weird-looking, what is that, like a dragon-y thing that's pulling at his hair and his skull. And then this ugly-looking bird thing about to just wallop him across the face with a big old stick of sin. So, exactly. So what might Grunwald be trying to do here? What is this showing us about the Northern Renaissance?
They don't like St. Anthony.
All right, no, they love St. Anthony. St. Anthony was a man that he was definitely faced worldly temptations. He definitely had to struggle against worldly temptations. Another good example is St. Francis of Assisi. He said when he struggled with lust, he would throw himself naked into a rose bush. That would be terrible, wouldn't it? Naked into a rose to resist the sin of lust.
And apparently one of the rose bushes he jumped in still doesn't grow thorns.
Yeah, well, it was a holy rose bush now. All right, and so St. Anthony, same kind of struggle. Struggles with sin, and this is where we see the personification of that sin, not by him sitting there like, don't do it. Instead, it's demons that are fighting against him, these nasty creatures personifying sin. All right, so kind of a nasty picture, I think. Yeah, there's a pretty girl. No, it's a demon! It's a weird bird creature that's going to kill me. All right, here we've got Hieronymus Bosch. And Hieronymus Bosch, he is an interesting painter from modern-day Netherlands. He's a Dutch painter. He always had a good time making really weird-looking people, okay? Really weird-looking people. Where do you see Jesus here, though?
He's carrying the cross.
How do you know he's Jesus?
He's on the cross.
Carrying the cross, that's the obvious one. He doesn't look messed up. Look at all these people's faces. The only other face in the crowd that's not messed up is this lady. And was it Veronica? Veronica, who gave the towel to Jesus to wipe off his face as he's carrying the cross. So there you see Jesus right there. Yeah, his little mugshot. So there's Jesus.
Pretty creepy looking Jesus.
Well, all right. So he's not as creepy though as these guys. Look at these guys. All right. Why make these guys so creepy looking? Look at that guy. And that's a monk. monk-ish looking character. Look at that little haircut that he's got. That's a monk type of haircut. I'm not sure if he's making a reference here to a more of a modern type of scene, but at the same time, we see, I mean, what does sin do to you?
It disfigures you.
Disfigures you. It disfigures you. It makes you a disgusting, despicable human being. All right, Hieronymus Bosch also has some other interesting work. He did, I think it's called In the Garden of Good and Evil, and that's another really weird one. I can never find it in the right kind of format to make it look good on screen, but another really weird one that you could look at sometime to see some religious symbolism. But then we get into the Ninja Turtle, who gave us this one. Which Ninja Turtle gave us this beautiful statue? Donatello! All right, Donatello with David. Now, Donatello is definitely worthy of Ninja Turtle status because he is going to give us the first freestanding sculpture since the fall of the Roman Empire. It's been nearly 900 years, and his first freestanding sculpture will be not David, but it's going to be St. George. All right, so he made it in a church, and it was just barely not a relief sculpture. All right, you remember what relief sculpture is?
It was 2D.
It's 2D, basically. It's just carved out of the wall, right? So St. George is going to be a little farther out from the wall, so you'll actually be able to, put your arm behind him kind of thing. But he's still fairly anchored into that wall structure a little bit. So while it is freestanding, it's not quite as big of a deal as, say, this one. Because the St. George, that one was made of stone. What's this one made out of?
Metal.
Bronze. All right, so this is a bronze statue. What was that?
Why is it a big deal that it's freestanding?
Because it hasn't been done since the Romans, okay?
Why?
So the
It's
Romans...
difficult.
It's difficult. It's incredibly difficult, all right? Especially with bronze, because how do you make a bronze statue?
Cast it, carve it.
You have to carve it, exactly. So you have to carve it, cast it, melt it, and then get it to form properly for you, right? It's incredibly difficult. So the fact that he's able to do this without having like a school to teach him how to do it, that's going to be a big deal. Plus, we haven't seen it in a long time. Imagine, say, for instance, if the suddenly we have all kinds of nasty Visigoths that take over America, and we see the end of the computer, God forbid, right? The end of the smartphone, the end of the tablet, and then 900 years later, someone brings back a tablet. It's like, whoa, whoa, look at that.
One question, though.
Yes,
They chose not to do it, or
they just didn't have the skills anymore, or they didn't try. Right? So didn't have it or didn't try. So for 900 years, we didn't see it. All right, but now we see it. And this is going to be the first life-size bronze statue also since the fall of the Romans. So this is going to be a big deal too because, if you take a look at the symbolism here, David, of course, how old was he approximately when he took out Goliath? 12-ish, exactly. So he was around 12, and so this looks like a 12-year-old boy, prepubescent boy, right? And yet he's got a lot of power to him at the same time. He did just kill a giant, so that's a big deal. But then some of the things that are happening here is he's wearing a hat to represent modern-day Florence. This is a hat of the Florentines who sponsored Donatello in making this statue. The footwear is also something that the Florentine army would have used. And this guy, Goliath, the head here is wearing the kind of armor that their enemy, I can't remember which enemy it was at the time, I've forgotten, but that's the kind of armor that their enemy would have worn. So, what is the statement of Donatello's David then?
We shall overcome.
We shall overcome. That's right. Okay, very good. Yes?
Okay, you said the Florentine sponsored him.
Uh-huh.
How expensive was that to make?
Super expensive. These artists were well paid.
How
Well
big is
paid.
the statue?
Life size. Looks like approximately a 12-year-old boy-ish. Okay.
If you could do
All right, there you go. So, hey, I forgot to put that up there. But we already mentioned it. All right, very good. And then the political symbolism of it is strong here as well. All right, so now what we're going to do is take a look at more of the High Renaissance, and to a lesser extent, a little more on the Northern Renaissance in the form of some Albrecht Dürer. So we're going to see a lot more expansion of what these artists are able to do. We're going to see a lot more experimentation on what they're trying to do here as well with colors, different kinds of paints that they're using. A little school known as Mannerism is going to come around at this time, and it's going to be pretty fun. So first we see this glorious fresco. And who did this one?
Leonardo da Vinci.
All right, Leo. So that should be easy. Yes. So yes, many of you have it in your house, and it probably looks better in your home than it does on the actual fresco wall, right? Because, all right, why is it that the fresco, within about 100 years, this thing had almost completely faded off the wall?
It was like the wrong.
He was using the wrong kinds of paints. So Yeah. So the thing about Leonardo is he liked to experiment, right? He was a true Renaissance man. What's a Renaissance man, first of all? You do lots of things, and you do them at least fairly well, if not exceptionally well, right? So Alberti, he was a Renaissance man because he was a writer, architect, and mathematician. Leo was an inventor. He was a painter. He was a writer. He was a scientist. He would steal bodies out of graveyards and do autopsies on them. All right? So that is not something that's acceptable at this time. You could get burned at the stake for that kind of behavior. All right? And yet, he knows that it's for science. And he also did it because he wanted to study the human body so that he could draw it better, okay, or paint it better. And then when he was messing with paints, he started to use a different kind of paint that I think they used egg whites in them as a method of trying to make the colors more vibrant, but it made them last not as long. All right? So lots of cool stuff happening here in this painting. First of all, the vanishing point. Where's the vanishing point and the focal point? Jesus' forehead, exactly, right there. All right, and then this is like a snapshot in the 1 second after Jesus says that someone is going to betray me. All right, so he says, tonight one of you is going to betray me. And then that's when they all go, what? And then say, is it I? Who is it? Is it I? And then at that moment, boom, we freeze shut. Okay, so yeah, there's controversy over it too, because what do... well, Dan Brown tells you about it in the Da Vinci Code, and then there's also many others that...
They superiorly had a baby or something like that.
Yes, so apparently Jesus and this very effeminate-looking John, this is supposed to be Saint John. So I think this one is supposed to represent John, right? According to Da Vinci's painting, anyway. But the way people have interpreted it is that might actually be Mary Magdalene, right? And so, and that they may have had a relationship and had a child together, and Jesus therefore had progeny. All right, it's bunk, but it's kind of fun. Okay, it's a fun book. It's a fun book. It's absolutely, stupid if you really believe it. And even Dan Brown said that. He said it's just a book. I don't know why people are getting so upset about it. It's just a book. All right, but anyway, so we see some controversy, but you also notice these guys are grouped in in groups of 3. So here's 3, here's 3, here's 3, here's 3. Okay, and I don't remember which one is. Oh yeah, this one. This one is Judas. Okay, you can see Judas's pose here on the far left. I would say it's a bit less shocked and more like, how'd you know?
Yeah,
so that's kind of fun. Kind of fun. All right, and so let's see, anything else I can think of here?
Jesus looks pretty feminine too.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does look fairly effeminate.
I know that was Jesus just because I know this is the Last Supper.
Yeah.
Like that.
Otherwise, you might think it's a lady. Mm-hmm. Indeed. All right, so that's a fun one. Here we've got another one.
That can't be a woman because there would only be 11 disciples.
I agree. Yes,
That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. I'd have to reread the book to get the exact.
Yeah, the thing is...
No, read the book. It's so much better. The movie was terrible. Honestly, just terrible. Which saddens me because Ron Howard made it, and I love Ron Howard.
Yeah, the thing is...
And he's bald. And yet he's still famous. I love bald men that are famous.
Do you have a book?
I might. I'd have to check.
Maybe you have it.
But yeah, otherwise it's like $5 on Kindle. It's worth it.
Yeah,
All right, so here we have another one by Leo. So Leo's giving us the Virgin and Saint Anne. Again, a very religiously themed painting here. But the Virgin and Saint Anne. Who was Saint Anne? Mary's cousin, wasn't it? Cousin? Yeah. Or sister? Cousin? Sister.
Cousin.
Come on, you guys are in Catholic
It was
school.
a cousin.
All right.
It was a cousin.
All right. So, cousin? I thought it was a cousin.
I thought Elizabeth was the cousin.
Jesus.
Yeah. All right, you're gonna have to find out for me.
I think Elizabeth is your sister.
I only teach here. Okay, you guys are supposed to be the ones
You
who
went
really
here.
do. I'm teasing.
Just
All right, so here we have the Virgin and Saint Anne, and so this person, of course, is supposed to represent
Little baby Jesus.
little baby Jesus, and what's he holding on to?
A sheep.
A lamb. Why might Jesus be holding on to a lamb? Because he's the Lamb of God. Yes, it's pretty overt symbolism.
On the internet it says that it's her mom.
Her mom.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
We knew
There
that.
you go.
Guys, is Elizabeth the one who lived in that?
Yeah.
That's just a shadow.
All right, thank you. See, this is why we have iPads, so you can check it out for me.
Baby has a full beard.
All right, no, that's not a beard. That is called chiaroscuro. All right, so I don't remember if I put that in the slide for you or not. Yes, I did. So chiaroscuro is a shading tactic. Do we have any artists in the room?
Whatever. That's
Any artists? Hey, very good. So if I want to create shading, Emma, how do you do it? Do you just kind of go like that? No. If you want to do the Leo way, you don't just draw thick lines that get further and further apart, but what do?
You dot shading.
Dot shading, pointillism kind of shading. You can kind of rub on it and have it go away, or you can crosshatch, right? So chiaroscuro is crosshatch shading, and Leo invented it. So what you do is you want your dark shadow right here. I'm doing this poorly with a marker, obviously. But if you want darkness there, then you'll put them real close together like that, crosshatch, and then they'll start getting farther and farther apart as you're moving away from where you want it to be less shady. Make sense?
What's the point of that, though?
It makes for a different type of shading technique that has not been used in art up to this point. And it creates better depth and better lighting. Yeah. So our light source, yeah? Light source over here, right? So you can tell the light source better, which has always been a problem in Renaissance art before, is they've started to come up with vanishing points, for instance, where the lines are supposed to go, but they've had a harder time with light sources sometimes. Like everything's bright, and it shouldn't be. That's not how it works in the world, right? Another thing that he did to create more depth is atmospheric hazing up here. Atmospheric hazing is another one that he will perfect, and others from this point forward will try to mimic. It creates depth. It creates more realism, because before it was very difficult to create that kind of imagery well. Okay, and so he's going to be the man that will be able to do it very well and make it famous. All right, so other cool things about Leo, of course, he didn't just do art. He made inventions, or he tried, or he made sketchbooks about it. He went and served under kings of Europe, such as Francis over in France. And so, I mean, he did a lot of incredible stuff. But my favorite thing about him, he had a favorite quote. It was obstinate rigor. Two-word quote that's easy to remember to throw down in an essay, for instance. Obstinate rigor. What does that mean for a Renaissance man?
Like,
and humanist, and inventor, and painter, and sculptor?
defying society with like effort or like
Yes.
energy.
Obstinate meaning you're stubborn, and rigor meaning you're working hard. So stubborn work ethic is basically what that means. Obstinate rigor. All right, so I was a big fan of Leo when I was going through grad school because I had heard these rumors and started to look it up, and it turns out it's fairly accurate anyway, that Leo, not only was he a big fan of obstinate rigor as his kind of his slogan or his mantra, but he also slept very little. Part of the reason he could accomplish so much is because he was up all the time. He slept only a couple hours at a time, and then he would get back up and then do his thing for, say, 20 hours straight, and then sleep a couple hours and then do another 20 hours straight. It was crazy, right? And I always thought, no, that's not possible. But then I went to grad school, all right? And so I, working full-time, doing grad school, having, a child and a wife, and that ended up making it so I slept maybe 4 hours a night, most nights, and after a little bit of training, it was possible! And then I kept going for that 2-hour mark and never made it. I'd fall asleep during the day if I tried that. Fell asleep on my lunch break a couple times. But anyway, so, he's an interesting character. Very busy man. Did a lot in his lifetime. All right, now who's this one?
Bernini.
All right, not Bernini. We're not getting to Bernini until the Baroque period, but oh, now there's pressure, Duncan. No, all right, so we're going to see a Bernini, the Ecstasy of St. Teresa, that looks very similar. You could say he was borrowing from Michelangelo's Pieta. All right, Michelangelo, man, myth, and legend. This guy is a rock star. Became a rock star. I don't remember how old he was exactly when he did this sculpture. I think he was like 20 or 21. And so, did you guys take the tour and see this?
Yeah, but they have it like.
It's encased now. Do you know why it's encased now?
Because someone broke
Yeah,
it.
a crazy guy broke in and tried to smash Mary to bits. Didn't he break off her hand?
Right.
The hand, yeah. So hey, here's the background story on it though. When Michelangelo made this, he never signed it in any way. He just gave it to the Vatican. And so you might already know this story, right? And so the Vatican was showing it off one day, and everyone was like, no way. No way did a 20-year-old kid make that. That is too good. I don't believe it for a second. Michelangelo was so ticked that no one believed it was his. He snuck in the middle of the night and signed his name on Mary's chest. All right? Nice and bold for everyone to see it. Michelangelo! What's what? What's what now, people? Critics, you want to say it's not mine? The next day they were like, oh, all right, thanks, Michelangelo. All right, we believe you now. Okay. Thanks for ruining it. Yeah, that's the little signature there. So after doing that, he was apparently so embarrassed for the way that he acted that he never signed another work again. All right? So he just said, well, I'm not doing that anymore. Is that about the story you guys heard? All right, good. So another thing that's cool about this is the symbolism behind it. We see here that Mary is holding the dead Jesus. Okay, this is after he's been taken down off the cross. Now tell me, Mary is a light little woman. She's like, what, 110 pounds maybe? Right? She looks like a little woman. All right, Jesus is obviously going to weigh more than her, because he's a dude. And secondly, it's literal dead weight. Okay, have you ever held any like a child or a person that's just acting as dead weight, like they just give up? All right, so babysitters might know this feeling. So when you do that, it's not easy to hold them, even if they're only like 40 pounds. This is like a 140 or 150 pound dude who's literal dead weight. Can she? I mean, is it possible that she can hold him like that?
Strength of God.
The strength of God. All right. So the way it's been interpreted is that perhaps what we're seeing is the literal dead Jesus, but what Mary is seeing is the baby Jesus. She is holding, in this moment, holding baby Jesus and looking down at him affectionately. She doesn't have, it's a sullen face maybe, but it's not like she's weeping and bemoaning this event. She's just looking down at her baby Jesus. But what we see as the viewer is the dead, crucified Christ. Why? From birth until death, what's Christ? The plan's there. What is Christ going to be? Savior of the world. He has to do what to get there? Has to die. And so what Mary is doing is holding the baby Jesus, but we, the viewers, are seeing the dead Jesus. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right, it's kind of fun symbolism, I think. Kind of a cool way to do things. That's one of the things that makes Michelangelo so awesome. And then here we've got David. Once again, the Florentines love David, don't they? Just love David because they feel like they're the little guys taking on the rest of the world. And so he's going to make a very large, much more than life-size David in all his manly glory. Right there for you, indeed. Manly glory. All right, now we're starting to get into a little thing called mannerism with this type of art because David on this occasion is slightly disproportional. All right, slightly disproportional. His hands are too big for his body. Okay, now that's intentional. Anyone know why Michelangelo would want his hands to be too big for his body?
Because it's massive, so from below it looks normal.
All right, from below it looks normal. Very good. So when you're standing down here looking up at it, it looks normal, right? But then when you're looking at it from this perspective, it doesn't quite look normal. So part of that, the mannerism school of art that Michelangelo is kind of going to found, so to speak, is that you're going to break the rules of art so that it looks different from different perspectives, okay? So he'll do that with this one. Another thing that we notice is he's kind of cheating a little bit because the problem with David's body here is the weight is going over to this side, so he will fall over unless we do something. So if all my weight is going this way, statue's going to fall over. So what do you do to prevent that, first of all? All right, first of all, there's a little branch there to brace his leg, so that keeps him from falling. Also, what did he do? My shoulders are going too far. What do I do?
He leveled them out.
Levels them out this way, and then puts an arm up here to counterbalance that. So that gives it more of a realistic motion, rather than being like this or like this, David. He's kind of mid, relaxing his stance after taking out Goliath. All right? And so, he could have put clothes on him. Could have. But that wouldn't have been as cool.
No.
Right?
Clothes anyways.
What?
Who needs clothes?
Amen to that. Yeah. You. Okay. Wow. Thanks. All right. So here's just some of the detail on the hands. Look at that. If you look at your own hands, you can see, probably see some of the bones a little bit. You can maybe see a couple of veins. That is some serious veins. Well, get some water. Either that or you see those super buff dudes, maybe, at the gym that are just ridiculously ripped, like Mike over here, just ridiculously ripped, and then their veins just popping out, right? Just like David here, ridiculously ripped. And then look at that face! Do you want to mess with that guy?
Oh, no.
I don't think so. All the little city-states, you want to mess with Florence?
Nah.
No, I don't think so. What was that?
Michelangelo also Mike the Weak Ones.
He was also what?
Mike
Mike
the Weak
of the Weak Ones, that's right. I remember that. Good Mike of the Week. All right, here we've got, what's important about this tile? Where is it? The Sistine Chapel. All right, so I think it was Julius II that hired Michelangelo to make the Sistine Chapel as his personal, not only personal chapel, but eventual personal burial area. They didn't bury him there; they put him in the crypt like everybody else, all the other popes. But Julius II was kind of trying to toot his own horn a little bit here and want just this perfect, pristine Sistine Chapel for him. All right, so he and Michelangelo were always arguing about it, always, because Michelangelo, I think he spent 4 years on his back in candlelight painting every little detail of this ceiling. So he had some scaffolding, like little wooden structures that he would lay down and be like this, painting in candlelight. Okay, so Jeff, you're gonna say something?
No, not me. You'd probably like strict on his face.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Talk about difficult, right? Obstinate rigor, right? He's another practitioner of this. What?
Why did they fight?
Because Julius wanted to see different things. He liked, I can't remember exactly what it was, but sometimes it was about money, and so Michelangelo would just walk out. He'd get mad, and he'd walk out and say, well, then you paint it, if he wasn't getting enough money. And Julius would say, well, dang it. All right, and so he'd have to go sell some indulgences and then get him some more money. All right, and so, because Julius was busy fighting wars and trying to paint the Sistine Chapel and build other massive structures for the church.
Yeah, part of St.
Yeah, part of St. Peter's, which is what Michelangelo was working on as well. He was
In
working on the
addition.
Duomo, right? He was working on designing the Duomo, and then Brunelleschi would later accomplish some of that. What? What'd you say?
Just rich.
Michael? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Brunelleschi was early 1400s.
Yeah, sorry, that was I'm
Yeah.
thinking of the Duomo in Florence.
Right.
Thank you. Yes, Michelangelo was the man, myth, and legend behind St. Peter's. But here we've got the center tile of the Sistine Chapel. All the other biblical stories revolve around this moment, right? So this is Genesis, obviously. Here is Adam in his full manly glory again. The cool thing about Adam here is that he's laying it down, but he doesn't look dead necessarily, does he? Why not? What's the humanist idea behind this? It's not like he's just lifeless and sitting there.
We're alive.
All right, do we have some potential? We have potential. Can you see the manly potential in those biceps and triceps and everything else? Yes, there is manly potential bulging there and ready to go, right? And then that's when God comes in and says, I'll give you the rest. And then boom, suddenly we have life. Okay, and so the creation of man, we're going to see some life happening very soon here. There's just milliseconds before it happens. But something that's cool about God here is that this is the first time in human history that we've seen a God in art presented horizontally. God is always upright or erect in art throughout history, throughout culture. Doesn't matter where you are, always upright and erect. This is the first time that we see God coming down horizontally toward man, which again is a humanist kind of characteristic, that God loves us and wants to be a part of this, right? God wants you to be awesome. God wants to be a part of this idea. And then what else are we doing with this? How do we design it? The anatomically correct brain. Yeah, so that makes it pretty cool too. Okay, and then here we've got the Holy Family. This is another, and this is again in the Sistine Chapel. Now this is painted in an area of the Sistine Chapel. I can't remember which wall exactly or where exactly, but this is painted in an area of the Sistine Chapel where it's kind of difficult to see them from a certain angle and make it still look realistic. So this again goes back to that school of mannerism where we have to make some adjustments to make Mary look perfect from the right angle, okay? So for instance, if you stand, let's see, if you're looking at it from over here, and I'm going to have you guys get up and look at it from right here. Okay, now hold on a second. Let me explain what you're looking for. When you're standing like right here or in this vicinity, you'll notice that if you look at Mary's left elbow, it looks way smaller, like she hasn't been lifting with her left arm, but been pumping iron with her right arm, right? Her right arm looks huge by comparison to the left one. Then, if you keep your eyes on the screen and move over to here, you'll actually watch her elbow grow. You will literally see it grow. And then if you stand right here, this is where it looks a little better, right? From Bridget's perspective is where it looks better. So, start over there, and then keep your eyes on the screen and move over to Bridget's side.
How did we decide that if we wanted you to be able to see it?
It depends on where this tile is, like I don't remember where it's positioned on the walls, but if you're standing at that spot, looking up at that tile, that's where it's the best view. So you're meant to see it from a certain angle.
So which arm's supposed to get bigger?
This arm's supposed to get bigger.
Yeah,
Is the shape?
Alright?
Just to closer, or?
Because you're at a different angle.
It's magic, John.
It's a different angle. Did you see it grow a little bit?
Yeah.
I mean, you really got to pay attention. Really got to watch it. But it will grow. Alright? It'll look different from different angles. Now, why would he do that? I mean, first of all, he wants you to see it from a certain angle because he knows that's where you'll be standing as you're able to see this with any kind of good detail. And the other thing, too, is he's trying to give it three-dimensionality, right? He wants to make it more three-dimensional. That way it kind of pops at you. Yes?
With where it is in the Sistine Chapel, Like I remember from being in there, like on the left facing the altar, the left side is the New Testament, so it'll probably be the left.
So you're facing the altar, the left is the new.
Yeah, left.
Okay.
And then so since this is early, it'll probably be like far.
All right, hold on. We turn to listen to Duncan here. Duncan's been in the Sistine Chapel, so he can tell you about it. All right, so as you're facing the altar, Duncan.
Yeah, as you're facing the altar, the New Testament part of the Bible, those pictures are on the left. So this is early in the story, so it'd be farthest away from the altar on the left.
Okay, so kind of in the back corner, so to
Yeah.
speak, on the left. Cool. All right, so there's actually a link that I think I have on the website. Did you guys do that? All right, the Sistine Chapel. All right, good. The Sistine Chapel tour. That's really cool. I was hoping it would work on your iPads.
Yeah.
All right, super cool because I've never seen it. I've only seen panels, and then when I did that, I was like, whoa, whoa, this is way cooler than I thought.
I
All
want to
right.
figure out by myself.
Yeah.
That would be like the best thing ever.
Yeah,
Well,
wouldn't that be
well-
neat? So apparently, if you show up super early in the morning before the crowds come in, that's the best time.
That's hard though. That's
Yeah.
really hard.
Yeah, that's what Cahill said.
This doesn't
And
ever
I trust
think
Kate.
that, like, oh, I'm gonna go super early. And they all shot.
But then they sleep in, they've had too much wine in Italy the night before, you know, they stayed up on the veranda, whatever. All right, so here's some other things. We've got Mary actually lifting Jesus down. What's the symbolism there? Lifting Jesus down. From the cross, yes. And then who's this guy looking up at Jesus and like, yo, that's my cuz.
John the Baptist, bro.
Who's that?
John the Baptist. Bro.
John the Baptist. There you go. Looking up and like, yo, listen to him. Listen to him. I don't know. They're the part of different stories that I'm not aware of. I mean, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. All right. So then, if we take a look at this is the Last Judgment. I love this scene. Just a little bit of fun stuff on the Last Judgment. First of all, when Michelangelo was finally finishing this thing, I mean, it really freaked people out to see this when they first saw it. It's massive, first of all. Look at this. This is a door, okay? I'm like maybe here on the door. I'm a pretty short guy. So there's me, okay? And there's Jesus, okay? Huge, all right. And then all these devils, okay? And then that's the altar, isn't it? Okay. So I mean, this thing is just massive, first of all, but it's terrifying in the incredible majesty of it, too. For instance, Pope Paul III, who actually paid for this part of the Sistine Chapel, he commissioned it and saw it. When he went in, he said, "Lord, please don't charge me with my sins when you come on Judgment Day." Ooh. So even the Pope is freaking out when he sees this painting. Yeah, you'll see it.
Are the feet on the top? Are those like actual feet or not a painting? So it looks
That's a
like
painting.
It looks like they're dangling down.
I know, that's a painting. That's the Mannerist school. Right? That's how he's able to do
It
that.
looks like they're dangling down.
And it gives it, gives it that three-dimensionality. All right, so if we take a look at Michelangelo's Last Judgment, some of the cool things happening here. First of all, this is the moment when Christ is dividing heaven and hell, right? So you see down below, not a Dantean hell, but you see where they're about to go there, right? So down here is the kind of the opening to hell. You see Minos, and then you also see Charon, the boatman, that's about to take these souls on the boat across the way there. All right, and then you see all these souls being either pulled up or cast down. It's just absolutely horrifying. Yes?
Did that bother some people that he had like
Yes, I'll get to that in a second. I've got that for my last slide on this. All right. So here's Jesus, and he is more than idealized here, I would say. Right? Idealized meaning, pretty ripped. Okay, but this is like super crazy ripped. Okay, this is like steroids ripped. All right. Okay. So, and then, all right, you see here the wounds. You've got a wound right here, right, from where he was stabbed
Not
in
very
the
big.
heart. And then you've got the recovered wounds on his hands. And then, who's this?
Mary.
Mary! Now this was scandalous. The fact that we had a Mary that was, fairly attractive, hiding under Christ's swing there. Many people thought that she was a little erogenous, okay? A little bit, what do you call it? A little too erotic for this theme. They didn't, and I don't see it, but, viewers at the time criticized Michelangelo saying, how can you make Mary look so saucy? Okay? You can maybe see it. Mary is erotic. Yeah, that wouldn't be good. And so Michelangelo just blew them off. He was pissed. He did not like hearing that kind of criticism. But he heard even more as we move along here. Heard even more. All right. And so then here we see this guy. Which saint is this guy? Who was skinned? Bartholomew. Thank you. So he was skinned alive. Skinned alive. And so therefore, as he's hanging out in heaven at Christ's feet, there's Christ's feet right there, showing the knife like, yo, look what I did for you, brother. And then boom, there's his dead skin. All right. Yay, that'd be fun, wouldn't it? That would be a terrible idea. That's Bartholomew holding the skin. Yeah, it's kind of that symbolic. This isn't retribution, but this is symbolic reward. So in heaven, he gets to hold it and be like, look what I did. I did this for Christ, right? Whereas in hell, it would be punishment, like, symbolic retribution for Dante.
It would be done again and again and again.
Yeah. All right, so we see this guy. All right, he's not having a good day. Not at all. Getting pulled down. Like, look at that. Look at that nasty demon just like, pulling him down. Naked and afraid. Yes. All right. Now here we got this dude. This guy was a contemporary who criticized. This guy was the master of ceremonies for the Pope. Master of ceremonies for the Pope. I didn't give you this slide because I just added it today. All right. So this guy was the master of ceremonies for the Pope, and when he saw this thing with Pope Paul III, he didn't like it. He called it stufa di inguni. All right. So what that means is this is the stuff of bathhouses.
Right.
He didn't like the nudes. So what did Michelangelo add?
He put them in him
in hell, right next to the boatman. Right? So he's in hell, getting dragged away here, surrounded by a snake. Oh, and he also has his genitals being eaten off by a snake.
Yeah.
To be like, you don't like my nudes? Take that. Yeah!
And he's got,
So, this guy's
evil
still
ears.
alive. So this guy was really angry about, and he's got donkey ears, yeah. So this guy was super ticked about it, and so he criticized it to the Pope, and the Pope was like, I don't know what to tell you. You made him mad. All right, so that's what's going to happen. All right, so fun times. It pays to be an artist, and you can send your enemies to hell. It's good times. All right, so this one, who did this one?
Raphael.
Raphael, very good. So this is Raphael doing the Transfiguration of Christ. Now, a lot of cool things. Oh, first of all, something I forgot to mention about Michelangelo. Part of the reason that his imagery, I'll go back for a second. Part of the reason that his imagery of hell was maybe, and judgment, was so strong is because, the guy struggled in his own personal life too on his visions of sin and death. All right, so Michelangelo was kind of an aesthetic. What does an aesthetic mean?
Like self-mortification.
Self-mortification. He was fabulously wealthy, but he didn't live like it, even though he always wanted more money for his paintings. He always lived like he was, he would sleep in his boots and sleep in his clothes most of the time. He wouldn't live this fabulous lifestyle because he was very afraid of sin. All right, but the other thing, too, is he was probably in love with men. He wrote poetry to a man that historians have said he was probably in love with, but they never, they think, did anything. It's just that he knew he had those feelings, and he tried to resist them.
Actually, say that about Leonardo da Vinci too.
Exactly. Yeah. So, quite a few of these artists at the time. This is going to be very different from, say, Raphael, who was more bombastic. All right. He was very much into the wealth and the power and the everybody loves my work, and I'm going to celebrate that. Right. Okay. And so Raphael, he's going to be a very different type of guy. Different sort of artist, but fabulous at his work as well. So here we go. Oh, and then one other cool thing I forgot to mention about Michelangelo. When he was doing sculpture, he said that he would look at a block of marble, and he would see an angel within the marble, and he would carve until he had released it. Right? That's kind of cool. Okay. All right, now to Raphael. Raphael gives us the Transfiguration of Christ. He's working for Pope Alexander VI, the Borgia Pope at this point, which can be problematic, right? Because the Borgia Pope was very much into aesthetic appeal, very much into nice things, even incest, yes. All right, and but we still get this incredible picture as a result. So with the Transfiguration, remember, Jesus comes up to the mount, is transfigured. Peter's like, yo, Elijah, and who's the other guy? Elijah and Isaiah? Moses, thank you. So Elijah and Moses, he's like, yo, guys, why don't you stay with us? We'll make it tense. And then, pow, bright light, and then they're just cowering on the ground, and Jesus is suddenly illuminated, right? So then they go back down the hill. All right, so we see a narrative style here once again, because there's one story told up at the top, but down below is the next story that happens after. Remember, they go down there, and there's a boy that's been possessed, and you can see him right here. He's being possessed, and everyone is like, please, disciples, help us, fix this boy, give us your miracle, pray for him. And what do the disciples say? They're like, leave him alone. Leave Jesus alone. He's too busy for you right now. We don't want to pray over this kid. We're too busy, right? And so Jesus comes down. He's like, what's wrong with you guys? Send the boy to me. I'm going to heal him, right? And so he does. So, yeah, that boy's ripped too. A little bit of idealism for a 10-year-old kid who's been at the gym He lives at the gym,
Look at
eats
that
whey
leg.
protein, you name it.
Look at that
Okay.
leg. Look how big his leg and calf is.
Yeah, I mean, massive calf too. It's bulging.
Looks like he's, like,
Okay,
dropped the
so
baby.
another interesting thing here too is remember which pope was he working for when he painted this? Alexander the Sixth. So other than sleeping with his daughter, Alexander the Sixth also had a number of mistresses. One of his favorite at the moment was a lady named
Julia Farnese.
Thank you, I can't pronounce it. Julia Farnese. So, Julia Farnese is the lady that's being depicted right here, and she looks, quite saucy, quite lovely, but he just throws her in there, and the Pope's like, yes, I'm very impressed, I like this. And there's my mistress, how wonderful. Yeah, got it? All right, good. Okay, now this one, fantastic painting, you should hang it in your dorm room. Your roommate will love it. They'll think you're totally cool if you do.
It's
You
good
bring all your
motivation.
Euro books with you, and you put up some art, all over the room. They'll love it. All right, so here's something that belongs in your dorm room because, what is it? Yeah, get
A bunch of
poster.
philosophers.
There you go, a bunch of philosophers. This is the School of Athens. This is Renaissance humanism at its best. Okay, because right across, this is in the Vatican, first of all. It's in one of the walls of the Vatican, and right across from this painting on the other side is a much more religious-themed picture. All right, so we get religion on one side, and then on the other side, as you turn around in the hall, you see the School of Athens. All right, and so the School of Athens, what makes it great? What do you got?
Just like everyone in there.
Plato.
Plato, Aristotle, exactly. But we
Pythagoras.
also see,
when he was there?
no, because this is a kind of a throwback to the ancient Greeks. So we see a throwback to the ancient Greeks in the fact that they're in this wonderful school of learning and art, but all kinds of different people are being portrayed here too. First of all, if you zoom in, I'll get to that in a second. All right, so if you take a look at these two figures right here, we've got Plato and Aristotle. Let's see, I'm trying to remember which one is which here. All right, there we go. So Plato, who was emphasizing more of the real-world politics. He's the guy here that's standing with the book in his hand. Real-world politics for Plato, holding the book in his hand. Whereas Aristotle is pointing up to the skies, saying, hey, let's look at what's going on up there. All right, so these two are portrayed as contemporaries, though, as well, because who do we have in the picture that represents Raphael's contemporaries? What do you think? All right, zoom in for a second. Who's that?
Oh, it's Leo.
That's Leo! That's Leonardo da Vinci! There you go! There's Leo. All right, and then if you zoom in on a different part of the picture here, there we go, Plato and Aristotle hanging out, talking. If we go to a different part of the picture here, you've got, anyone? Brooding all of the time, always kind of angry, slept in his boots.
Oh, Michelangelo.
That's Michelangelo! There you go! All right, and then, who's that?
The man, myth, and legend himself.
There you go! It's Raphael himself! Let's go back to the picture and point out all these people where they were.
It looks like like when the Limbo on the Dante's Inferno movie, this is what it looked like.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because...
It's more in like a cartoon figure.
Yeah, because this is where all those guys would have been hanging out in Limbo, according to Dante.
Yeah.
All right, good. So here we've got Michelangelo. He's portrayed as a Greek mathematician at the time. Let me see if I've got his name here. Yeah. Pythagoras. There you go, Pythagoras, if that's how you pronounce it. Pythagoras. He's the Greek mathematician that's being portrayed here as Michelangelo.
And the
Okay,
guy that
and then
is Euclid.
Raphael right over here.
Literally, but it's like.
Not Pythagoras. Not Pythagoras. Pythagoras. Yeah, that's how you say it. All right, there's Raphael right there. Okay, and then I like this guy. This guy's pretty cool. His name, we'll end with this guy. This guy's name is Diogenes. Diogenes. So Diogenes was living in the time of Alexander the Great, and Diogenes was very much anti-society. He didn't care what society thought about him. He was a wrestler for a while. He did a lot of Greek wrestling, and then he's like, you know what, this is stupid. I'm getting famous from it. I'm just going to sit in the street naked, and I'm going to hang out, because that's what I want to do. And then people were criticizing for that, so sometimes he would defecate in public. He'd be like, oh yeah, you think that's crazy? Watch this.
And then throw it at him.
And then he'd just sit there, and people would come to him, and they'd be like, Diogenes, you're so cool, you're so different. We like that, you're just so different. Alexander the Great apparently met him and was like, man, you're just totally neat. You're a neat dude. All right, and so Raphael just kind of throws him in there, and you notice his pose here. He's just like, what? What? What do you care?
He's
I'm
not
awesome.
in a regal pose like everyone else.
No, everybody else looks good. He's just looking funny.
Teachers, pardon the interruption. Information for juniors and seniors. We have a representative from Lewis and Clark College who will be in the conference room. Please get permission from your teacher's second period if you want to visit with the representative. He will be up there.